Hi and welcome to Learning for the Life in the UK test part 34. I'm not teaching, I'm just publicly learning. And we're having the end of a chapter, the Middle Ages or something like that, but not the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages. Yes, the Middle Ages. So we're going over the end questions of the Middle Ages while doing lunch training. And participating in the lunch training is at your own risk, and it has nothing to do with lunch. It's written with a G. So we should check to understand of Middle Ages the wars that took place in the Middle Ages. Now we had multiple bigger and smaller wars. We had that King Edward I declared in the Statutes of Rutland that Wales was a part of Scotland, and when there was fighting, the castles Conway and Carnarvon, for example, were built to maintain the power in Wales. The Wales by the mid of the 15th century were under the power of the English. When there was fighting with the Scots between England and Scotland, and Robert the Bruce and his army won in the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. And we could say that too, but it's not really part of the wars. The English king sent troops to help the Irish king, and they stayed then and in a region called Pale near Dublin, and they were mainly accepted as the ruling authority by important lords of Ireland. Yes, when there were the Crusades, in which European Christians fought for control of the Holy Land. And the 100 Years' War, which lasted 116 years, and there was a big battle, the most famous, the most famous, that they say, in 1415, in which the army under King Henry V, who was vastly outnumbered, defeated the French, and they left in 1450, in the 1450s. But so let's make that. The 100 Years' War was 116 years long. We don't have any dates here, but it was sometime around 1450. So the 100 Years' War, which lasted 116 years, had the important battle of 1415, the Battle of Agincourt, in which the vastly outnumbered troops of King Henry V defeated the French. And then we have... No, it is not about war. When do we have the Wars of the Roses? And let's make that fast. And when we're going to start, what we want to do with lunch training. So the Wars of the Roses, 1455, 1485, 30 years. They couldn't decide who get to be the next king of England. So the House of Lancaster with the Red Rose and the House of York with the White Rose were fighting in the battle in 1485, in the Battle of Bosworth Field. The House of York did not won. It's not written here who won, but we know that the leader of the House of York, King Richard III, died in that battle. And after that battle, the niece of King Richard III, Elizabeth of York, married Henry Tudor, who was then the king after that ending battle. And King Henry VII was then king. He married Elizabeth of York, the niece of King Richard III of the House of York. And they needed a new symbol, and they made the Rose of Tudor, which is the red and white rose, Red Rose from the House of Lancaster, whom King Richard III led, and I said it wrong, from the Red Rose, the House of Lancaster, which Henry Tudor led, and the White Rose, the House of York, which King Richard III led. So now we have the Tudor Rose, which has something of the White Rose of the House of York, so the white way, and something of the Red Rose of the House of Lancaster. So with that, I think we know of the wars listed here of the Middle Ages. Now let's start finally. We are breathing in and out, and again in and out, again in and out, and we're closing the legs, and we are doing the six-pack squat squeeze. So we're having the legs standing wide apart. We're going into third quad, and we're pressing with the hand against the upper part of the leg, and we're doing with quite a lot of force. And now on the other side, press against the upper part of the leg. And now we're going down into half squat, and we're pressing at the middle part of the leg. And and on the other side in the middle part of the leg. Now we're going down into 3/4 squat and we're pressing close to the knee. And on the other side close to the knee. And with that we're done with this exercise. So before we are leaving the chapter, there were 3 words, but I remember only 2. These 2 words were, the first one was weavers, because there were weavers coming to France. So some were around 1400. We have engineers from Germany, canal builders from Holland, glass manufacturers from Italy, and weavers from France. And weavers, they are making cloth. I just didn't know the name. So weavers, they are making cloth, basically textiles, out of wool, I guess. And wool was an important export thing of England. And the other thing was stained glass. Here we have a stained glass. Now I remember what I wanted to look up. Stained glass of Minister of York. Stained, the word just means, in this context, colored. So it just means it's colored glass. The word is used in other contexts, but colored is quite good for most ones, and even in a poetical sense, colored would be a proper translation. And I wanted to look up if it is, what is the picture on that scene. Maybe in the next part if I remember to do it. So stained just means colored, or also some other adjectives, but I don't want to use them now. And I don't know how to translate them. So stained glass means colored glass, and weavers are people who are making cloth and textiles. We are weaving them together out of different types of yarn. I'm not sure if you're coming through with the questions, but now we're doing the fast giraffe of the water pump. So we're going down into 3/4 squat, and we're pressing against one knee. Now we're going towards the knee where we're still pressing. So press against the knee, and go towards the knee. And press, go towards the knee. And pressing, go towards the knee. And again, press against the knee, go towards it. And again, press against the knee, go towards it, and the last time. And that was a fast giraffe with a water pump. Let's do the next exercise directly, the propeller. We're going down at the full squat. We have to be outside, we're leaning over to one side, we're pressing against the leg with one hand, we're looking to the other hand, we're having a little bend in the elbow. Into the middle, over to the other side, and press against the leg with a little bend in the elbow. Look up to the other. Back into the middle, and up. And now we can make it to the lunge exercise, which we're going to do quite fast, because we'd rather do that than do that because we want to do the exercise. Here now. How Parliament began to develop is the next question. Yes, King John I had king's councils, or the kings until 1215 had king's councils. They had advisors, noblemen, and leaders of the church, and they were giving advice, but the king's power was more or less absolute. But then in 1215 the king was forced by the noblemen to go into some demands listed in the Magna Carta, and with that the noblemen got more right, the king couldn't make laws more, and the idea was established that also the king is subject to the law. And when the House of Parliament was founded, it got too big, so there were 2 houses, the House of Lords, where are the noblemen and great landowners and bishops, and we have the House of Commons, there are wealthy people of towns and cities, and knights, and they were voted in or elected in by a portion of the population. And in Scotland, where is something similar, there are 3 houses or 3 estates: House of Lords, the House of Commons, and the House of Clergy, or the estate of clergy. We don't know who is in whom of them for Scotland. Not in here. Next exercise. Now into a 1990 lunge, and press against the knee. Turn up with the back. And then we're just going through all the exercises quite fast in one through, which we have left, pressing against the knee. And to the other side, now 91 and a 35-degree lunge, so the leg a bit more back, turn up with the back, and pull at the leg. Straight back, and pull at the leg. And on the other side, 90 degrees, 135 degrees lunge, and we're pulling at the back, at the leg, and we're having a straight back. Over to the other side, 90, 135 degree lunge, and we're pulling a bit underneath the knee. Over to the other side, taller with the back, and pull a bit underneath the kneecap. And the last exercise, into full lunge, and we're pulling again a bit underneath the knee. Taller with the back. Over to the other side, full lunge, taller with the back, straight back, and pull underneath the knee. And we're done with the exercises. Now we're stretching. One leg with the heel onto the ground, and we're pulling a bit with the toes to stretch the leg. And with the other leg with the heel onto the ground, and we're pulling a bit at the toes and stretching the leg. Now we're coming up, we're bringing the arms up, we're having the legs standing a bit more than shoulder wide apart, we're breathing in. And out, we're leaning back, and we're opening the chest to the sky. Breathe again in and come up. And again out, again back. Again in, close legs and feet. Breathe in. And out, and we're leaning back. And again in. And out, and we're leaning again back. And breathe in. And out, we're doing the down diving swan. Now we're bending the right leg and we're stretching the left leg. Now put the heel of the left leg to the left and turn the body to the left. Now put the toes of the left leg to the left and turn the body to the right. Stretch both legs at a time. Now bend the left knee and stretch just the right leg. Bring the heel of the right leg to the right and turn the body to the right. Bring the toes of the right leg to the right and turn the body to the left. Close both feet and straighten both legs and stretch both legs at the same time. Breathe in. And out, we're doing the up diving swan, closing the hands. And breathing out. And just doing the closing exercise. Breathing in. And out. Again in. And out. Last round in. And out. Now we're closing the legs. And that was the lunge training. Let's look at the next question. But we don't have much time left. The way that land ownership worked. Where we have feudalism. Feudalism is the king giving land to his lords. In return, the lord is sending people of that land to help in the war efforts of the king. And there were more things to it. In Ireland, and I think also Scotland was it, where clans had that land. Land was owned by members of the clans in Scotland and Ireland. And I think that it was all to whom what land had. So I guess they mean feudalism. So if the lord is giving land to the lords. But the king is giving land to the lords, and they are in return sending people to help in the war efforts. And the effects of the Black Death, that is a bit complicated. But let's do 3 questions. And the next part, the Tudors and Stuarts, religious conflicts. And we're still by page 67, we will get more to St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, who had come from Ireland to spread to missionary in the north of Great Britain, and to the Church of England, where the Archbishop of Canterbury is very important, and the first Archbishop of Canterbury was St. Columba, who had come with missionaries from Rome to missionary in the south of, I guess, Great Britain. So we will do the rest questions in the next part. I thank you very much, and until this next part.